So and you probably do too, I've always hated when people say it's how we've always done it, right? And this is a phrase that pops up all the time. I've seen people write articles on it. I've seen other social media videos on it. But the idea that there's a reason, that we've always done something a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you'll ask that question, hey, why do we always do it this way? Oh, because of X, Y, Z, and it comes from this place, and this is how it deals with that problem, and therefore it's still relevant. Cool, that's fine. I'll just keep doing it forever. That's fine. Because sometimes change for the sake of change isn't always a positive thing, right? But for me, I always have to question why. Why do we do this? Why do we do it this way? And in my career in the military, this popped up all the time. There was always a certain way that we did things or had to do them. And sometimes, the military is not a place where you question everything and go, why? It's a place where you do stuff. They give you orders, you do it, whether you agree or not, and then that's it. The mission gets done. You need to be an automaton to get the mission done because you can't be questioning, right? Ours is not to question why, ours is but to do and die. So there were still a few things in my career that I still question to this day, and I don't like them. And there are millions of ways to do them better, right? But I'm going to give you two examples. The first one was at the end of my career in the Special Operations Unit that I was in. We had a very important role that our unit had to fulfill, and at times, or in fact all the time, it was on a reduced notice to move. So you had to be ready to go within a certain time frame to go and do some things. So obviously you've got to have, there's lots of procedures that enable that to happen, and there's, gear that's got to be packed, etc. All your stuff's got to be ready, whatever. But one of the things is making sure that you can contact people that have to come into work in the event that you've got to go and do something. And believe it or not, in the 21st century, one of the ways that we would do this, and in fact, in my memory and from what I can remember from that time, the primary way we did that was little cards. We had little cards with phone numbers and names written on them, and who belonged to where and where you were. Now, by the very nature of the military, people move, they change teams, they go on courses, they're away. Some people leave the military, there are deployments. Some people are sick. Whatever, there's other taskings they're on, they're medically downgraded, whatever it is. And the structure of who you're going to call and who belongs to who and whose role is what is constantly changing. So we would have to cut out these little cards that were printed out in color, write it up on the computer, structure it in a certain way for who belongs to who and does what role. And then there was numbers that you would then call people. And that would change constantly. And we'd cut the cards out, these little ones, and we'd laminate them and we'd give them to people. And then a couple of weeks later, it'd fucking change again. And you'd go through the whole thing again. Move some names, change some things, maybe some numbers got mixed up, mistake was made, whatever. And then you'd change that structure and then you'd go through it again. And I was always like, why do we spend hours of the year doing this stuff? It does not make any sense. Imagine if there was some sort of electrical device that could store large amounts of data and then also be able to project your voice via electronic and radio means to communicate with other people. And then imagine if you could possibly save all those details in said electronic device, right? And yes, I'm sure that, we did do that at times, but it really wasn't, in my estimation, the primary way that we did that. And that was always very frustrating because I'm like, this is very antiquated and this changes so much and there are so many variables in this that it's really not conducive to what we're supposed to be doing. So that was very frustrating for a start, right? And the other one was going on watch, so doing what we call picket, so like guard duty, especially when you're outfield. And the idea was that you've obviously always have to have somebody alert and ready for the enemy and whatnot. But it was very fatiguing. You do it every night, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. But that meant that everybody did one every night for the most part. So every night you would have a broken sleep. You would not sleep for 8 hours, not that you would anyway. You wouldn't sleep for 8 hours. You'd sleep for like 4 because you've, depending on when your picket was, maybe you don't need to sleep. Picket's an hour, so what's the point sleeping? So when I got out of the military and I went and did this little sort of youth mentoring thing, I came up with a new picket system, and you'd just do the first 4 hours of the night, or you do the last 4 hours of the night. So that meant that, a maximum of 4 people would have to go on per night, and you'd get your sleep, and you'd only have to have 1, maybe 2 nights of shitty sleep for the duration of your activity. So that's what I mean. Like if there are things that you have to do in your recovery or your job or whatever, because it's the way you've always done it, question it and find out, is it really the way we should be doing it? And sometimes it will be, other times not. And if it's not, make sure you've got a really good idea to replace that one with that's still going to fulfill the same mission.